And with that, our next thing on our agenda is the Human Rights.
Albert Richards. Good. Now we
Human
can roll
Rights
right
Commission.
along.
So Human Rights, Elizabeth Goldberg.
Hi, Elizabeth. How are you? Good to see you.
And Tom Ryan. And
Hi, Tom. How are you? Happy holidays.
Thank you.
Does somebody else want to sit?
Come on up here, John. Jackie.
How are you?
Am I here?
Here, do I want to sit here?
Come on, you can come
Go ahead, you guys are doing the talking.
We spoke about maybe to be seated.
Okay.
It turned out that there was an outline of an approach to ethics for government employees that was on the webinar. And so I noticed that the outline of it was really good in terms of what I'd like to see come out of our own Massachusetts ethics society. We have the problem in that the people who have promulgated the ethics rules have excused themselves from being ruled by them. So I thought that one of the things we benefit from is remember that scholastically it is the intent of the person taking the action that determines the ethical nature of the act. You remember that scholastic stuff. And that guidance would inform the difference between legal and ethical behavior. And it would seem to me that that would be enough if we had that kind of, let's say that kind of definition going forward. But anyway, that's all part of what I think we need to look at in human rights as well, because I think that when people understand the difference between legal and morally appropriate behavior, they begin to focus in on not only the right thing to do, but the right way to do it. So
that's a really good point.
Thanks, Bill.
I think the narrowly legalistic can really get us in trouble as a society if we're just thinking broadly. So,
welcome.
thank you so much for having us today. I'm here with
Thank you.
some comrades, as you can see. So Tom Ryan, who is our new coordinator, which we're just thrilled about, who's already got us rolling right along again. Paul Houlihan, who is the commissioner, who's worked extremely hard this year on our strategic plan. John Reed, who is a commissioner, who's keeping us connected all over the community, and Jackie Fields, who is Commissioner Emeritus, who also continues just to serve and sort of engine us forward. And then myself, I am currently chair for another about 2 weeks, and then I'll be stepping down solely because of other commitments, just feeling too stretched to sort of do justice to the work.
Linda's probably all over you up and down.
Well, it's it gets tricky. I teach full time at Babson College, and I'm off Cape, and I just feel the commission needs someone who can absolutely be like here at 2 p.m. So in any case, we have new commissioners coming in, so I'll say a little bit about that. I want to thank everyone for being here, and thank you for inviting us. We also have an intern this year, which has been a really wonderful, we always have interns in the summer, and that's through monies that have been donated by our friends, 501c3, and also by just generous people. And this year we had 3 interns. One of them has stayed on. He's going to stay on throughout the academic year. He's a student at UMass Dartmouth, and he is just finishing his senior year. He's a disabled person, and he's worked very hard on issues around disability with us, but he's also doing quite a few other things for the Human Rights Commission. So he's not here today, but he's really wonderful. His name is Justin Lacasse, if you ever come across him. So our new coordinator, that's probably our most exciting news, and I don't know if you have anything you want to...
Well, I want to thank you for signing my contract.
Oh, you're pleased.
And
Yes, now we have you where we want you.
And now you're on this side.
a large thumb, Bill. Thank you. And I want to say that I recognize that my little position, a little half-time contracted services, while it's specifically stated in my obligations to the Human Rights Commission, that I clearly understand and appreciate our need to collaborate with all levels of government. And you know that I've been around at different meetings, so I certainly appreciate the richness of our county government in the sense of the treasure of all the people, and I certainly want to be in a way that we can help each other all out. So thank you again.
Great. I keep wishing Tom could somehow be chair and coordinator. I just don't know how I could ever work that out, but just knows everyone and etc. So, but we have a really strong bench in our HRC right now, and so, I mean, some of them are here and taking time out of their day to be here, and we're not quite sure where the leadership will go moving forward. We haven't ironed that out, but we do have, we're having that conversation, and of course by January we will know who will be chair and who will be vice chair. Currently Mike Medeiros is vice chair, and he does a lot of work with the county around, particularly around children's welfare and children's rights. But we also have Ingrid Muzzy-Murray, who is, you probably know, was a commissioner and is coming back. And Ingrid is very well connected with our immigrant communities and also has a lot of experience. So we don't know exactly.
Well, I have a question to ask about
sure.
that. Are you connected with, was it Massachusetts Immigration and Refugees Association, the MIRA?
The MIRA, yeah.
Are you in contact with them?
Yep, we've had them down before
Okay.
to talk, and they're scheduled to come down again to see how we can collaborate and partner.
Yeah, their emphasis has been on legal, how to find paths to legitimize the immigrants, and I think they're doing some good things.
Right, absolutely. And so our current commissioner, Camilla de Oliveira, she has, who is also works with immigrant communities, has arranged for them to be down again. So yeah, we're working there, but also I just wanted to assure the county that we're trying to make as smooth a transition as possible with as much integrity. And one of the things that's been hard for the commission is that we've had some upheaval, particularly around coordinators, and so we're really delighted to have Tom and hopefully have some stability moving forward. We also have our Town Representation Council, which is, should be one representative from each town serving as a liaison for the HRC, plus one representative from the Wampanoag tribe. And currently we have some vacancies on that council, including the tribe. And so Tom and I went this past Friday, which happened to be International Human Rights Day, and met with the entire boards of selectmen at their meeting to just put out a reminder who we are, what we do, and how and why we need a representative from each town, and then we'll follow up with letters to make sure those vacancies are filled.
What are the towns?
Harwich is one of them, because I talked to Angie Chalaka about whether somebody had been identified to come behind her. Angie, of course, is really great.
Yeah, Angie's amazing.
And the others?
So it's a few right now. We've got, we just replaced Bourne. We have Harwich. We have, you might know about
I
that.
have the list.
Yeah.
Okay.
P-Town, Truro, Eastham.
Oh, so it's still the
Orleans
Outer Cape,
replacing
yeah.
the
Outer Cape.
Harwich, Dennis, Barnstable, the tribe.
Wow, there's a lot.
Sandwich.
Yes,
And
Sandwich.
Sandwich.
Yeah.
One of the issues for, as an observation, is to not organize behavior, but basically task the representatives for some type of either reporting responsibility or, let's say, or liaison responsibility, and with regular kind of contact.
Right.
You know.
Yep, and it's, I'll tell you, it can be very difficult. I think especially the Outer Cape, that's hard. We were in the habit before of moving our meetings around quite a bit around the Cape, and we have to get back to that. But, we've been talking about accountability measures for everyone involved.
The reason why there were so many vacancies, I think, is Elizabeth a few months ago sent out a pretty strong letter talking about responsibility, and if you really can't fulfill some sense of duty here, then maybe it's time to allow the selectmen to appoint somebody else, and that's when there were a number of people who stepped aside. So I think.
So we're in that process.
Yeah, and there are immigrant communities, believe it or not, in the Outer Cape, as well as here in Hyannis and further the northern, the upper towns. So I think that, just to be speaking before boards of selectmen, it would be good to try to get into those communities. There's a lot of Jamaican communities and that sort of thing. So there's definitely, the issues that people, I think, in the Outer Cape wouldn't necessarily feel that were not their first and foremost on their radar, but they do exist. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's a continuing, issue to engage people, to get people to sign up and have them recognize that it's not just to put something on your resume, it's to participate. And I think you took the appropriate action to say, look, this is a job, and it's important, and we want you to participate. But at the same time, I think going forward, I think it would be useful if people sort of understood what was expected of them. A lot of times, when people start off on things, it's, they really don't know what they're getting into, and it's good to have, okay, this is the job, and this is what we expect.
You're absolutely right.
So now you've had Paul and you had John here, and what have they been working on this last year?
Well, it's funny you should say that, because I'm about to introduce Paul to talk about the strategic plan, which he has led our efforts, so I will just turn it
Your
over.
timing is impeccable.
Oh,
Yeah, he really is.
and I didn't even really look at the outline of the agenda.
Well, there it
We'll leave
is.
another copy for Pat as well.
Yes.
Osmosis.
Yeah, we'll put it in the packet.
So I just want to take a couple minutes and kind of give you a little bit of background on this and kind of where we're at in the process. We've spent the last 6 months or so internally within the commission and the town reps talking about sort of among the myriad issues. You were talking earlier with Dan Wolf about all the issues. There's so many that strike you. It's like, and we've got very limited resources. How do we best use our resources? Mm-hmm. Number one, and number two, to the point that you were just making, Bill, that whether it's a commissioner or a town rep, you can't be passive. You've got to roll up your sleeves and you've got to dig into these issues. So the feeling among the group was that we'd really benefit by really kind of strategizing and really identifying a work plan going forward among the million things you could be doing. So what you have in front of you is kind of the latest draft, and we're still in the process. What we did, we started as the whole group, and kind of both in written format and then in discussions basically kind of looked at what's the array of things that's out there. Given the resources we have, how can we best utilize ourselves to move those forward? And we identified 5 areas that you'll see in this, and I'll go through them in a second. And then once we identified the 5 general areas, we began to drill down and look at within those, what are the most effective things we could do. And then we're going through the process now of assigning both commissioners and town reps to each of those 5 areas, kind of as working groups, to basically say, okay, if we want to pursue this area, what do we need to do? Where do we want to try to get to? What kind of resources do we need to do it? And what kind of outcomes are we looking to achieve? So that's the process that we're in right now. And the areas that we're looking at are, one is really key, which is the public relations and information. One of the things that is very clear to us, and I'm sure to you also, is that we need to do a more effective job of letting the entire Cape know that there is a Human Rights Commission.
Exactly.
And what it can do. And we were very much struck by that, and to that end, want to undertake a number of kind of technical resources put together to really be able to go out, speak with groups, interact with fraternal organizations, as well as local governments, nonprofit organizations, to basically say, this is what the Human Rights Commission is, this is what we can do. We want to definitely partner with you in terms of working through a number of issues. So what you'll see here is a number of actions that we anticipate putting together to really kind of advance that issue. The second one is education, and I think that, I've been a commissioner now for, well, next week will be a year, and one of the things that has really struck me as an incredible kind of resource in the county is the Human Rights Academy. And I was able to go to the first one that I was able to attend about a month ago now, and I was just blown away by not only the number of students and the teachers that were present, but the maturity of the students. I used to teach in college, and these kids were more mature than a lot of the students I taught at the collegiate level. And very aware of what's going on, very attuned, and very, very driven to really within their own schools and their own communities to kind of move the issue of human rights knowledge and human rights action ahead. And as you know, that group will be coming back in the spring to report on the work that they've done in the ensuing months. And I really look forward to that. And I think that that's a very unique and important resource for the Cape. One of the things, though, that we've really talked a lot about and we want to pursue is that you can never start too early. And the next step we want to take is basically begin talking to the middle schools, you know, the principals, teachers, and then those communities to really move that program down into the middle school areas. And including involving the high school students as part of that process. It's one thing for, you know, an older person to stand up and be, yeah. It's another thing for a high school student to be sitting down with an 8th grader or a 7th grader and say, look, here are some of the things we're working on. Here are the things that I've learned, you know, and really encourage you to get involved. So that's going to be an important issue for us in the coming years.
Well, I just would point out that the kids want to hear adults speak up when they hear either hate speech or something that they're passing off.
Yeah.
And I had anecdotally, about a week ago, I was over at Harwich High School, and one kid basically said, that's so gay. And I went over to him and said, look, I'm not going to hear that in here, period. And the kid that was sitting beside him says, you know, I'm glad you said that, because my uncle is gay, and it offends me when he says that. Mm-hmm. So the idea of, and I'm saying this again because I brought it up before, adults need to speak up when they hear kids speak to them, because otherwise silence is consent.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we have to give them a moral compass, and they're not going, I mean, I think that a lot of children do feel badly, and if they see adults not standing up more and more, they become jaded. Mm-hmm. And they become people who won't stand up either. Mm-hmm. But if they see it initially, then there's that example to follow, and they know it's the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. Go ahead, and I mean, I feel like I could speak to this too, but you're sort of in the middle of things. So go finish what you're saying, Paul, and then I'll jump in on my.
Okay, good. No, to your point, I totally agree. All I was saying was basically there's a real value to have that kind of mentoring taking place between older students and younger students. That does not mean that adults can stand on the sidelines and say it's not my issue. That wasn't my point.
I also think that to a certain degree some parents need to come in, because as time goes, you know, has gone on over, you know, we've seen a pattern emerge more of you know, we can all say back in our day, and if you went home and the teacher was, you know, came down on you, you know, your parents said, oh, what did you do? And now they go to the teacher and say, you know, how dare you? Or challenge that. And that's, you know, in certain circumstances that's called for, but and it's not, you know, to beat your kid over it either, but it's an opportunity to, again, reinforce in a positive way where there might have been bad judgment or it might have been a bad behavior, but it doesn't mean that that's not changed. So.
Paul can continue.
The next area that we really want to take advantage of is really focusing on partnerships. Again, because our commission is small and limited, we really feel an obligation to really reach out and, one, let other organizations know that we exist and what we do, but more importantly, to basically determine what are the areas that they're working on that we can collaborate on. And to the degree that we've been able to do that to this point, there's been a very positive kind of response. And so one of the real areas we want to continue is in this area over the next few years. The next area is funding and fundraising, which, you know, unfortunately you can't live without. And we recognize the fact that we cannot solely rely on the county for all of the financial resources we need. We are committed and have and will continue working on external proposals around specific projects that we really want to incorporate into the work we do. But then also we have the Friends group that, you know, we've been doing some reorganizing of that, and with the goal of working with them to really increase the revenue potential into the commission. So that's something just to let you folks know, we're not sitting by the sidelines saying, give us all the money. We understand we have a responsibility in this area
Right.
also.
And I think as Beth can tell you, or anyone here, a lot of grants are coming in the forms of collaboration.
Yep.
Whereas so by forming these partnerships, you can then come up with really good ideas that hit two areas at once.
Right.
you know, so.
So,
And then the final area is one of special projects. And one of which is that we are committed to, part of the work that we do obviously is responding to and exploring and negotiating issues around alleged discrimination. And one of the things that we're going to be doing internally is really getting more internal training ourselves so that we can be as effective in those kind of difficult arenas as possible. I mean, a lot of us have done negotiations over the years, but we want, this is kind of a special area. We want to make sure that, one, we're doing it right, we're doing it sensitively, and we're doing it with the best outcome possible. So that's one project, but there are others that around the immigrant issues that we've talked about, around looking at housing issues on the Cape and potential discrimination there, job discrimination potential. So there's a whole array of issues that we're going to be exploring and looking at. So those are the areas that we've identified and are very committed to really dig in and really work hard on those. And we'll be in a position to report back to you as we continue this kind of work.
Thank
Sounds
you,
like you're
Paul.
making great progress. It's been a good year.
What about John?
Yeah,
Are you ready?
we're ready.
Okay. As one of the commissioners, like Paul, we came on at the same time. And as we reorganized and began to develop a new strategy, I pretty much have been working with the commissioners to go to meetings. And I've been all over the place because I think that it's imperative that they not only understand what we do, but we understand what is going on, where the opportunities that arise in the community for us to have some input or invite people to come to give input is just as valuable. What has been said prior is the focus in the strategic plan of the commission at this point, or commissioners. And one of the things we're trying to do is make sure, as a group, not only are we visible at different kinds of meetings in different towns, and several of us have been at those meetings, bringing back the information as we go. Along with that, working with other groups. Fortunately, I have been a new Rotarian as well. So in terms of the work with the Hyannis Rotary, to which you were gracious enough to come, I've been talking about it there, but also working with Tom Ryan, who has been working with other groups. Collectively, we've been able to expand our energies where it's most effective without everybody getting burned.
Right.
In addition to that, we are in begin to reach the MCAD to come down and do hands-on training again. And Jackie has been kind of instrumental with that.
People should know, John, about the work that you do over that diversity room, over at
Well,
the community center.
I didn't say anything about that.
No,
Okay.
I'm the one that's saying it, okay? Because one of the things in terms of, you're very lucky to have John on this commission, because one of the things that you should know about John is he is in the community, he's participating in the life of the community, he knows who the kids are, he knows who the actors are, he's connected in that way, and he works at it. And I'd say I go over to the community center on a regular basis, and I can't remember more than 1 or 2 times that you weren't there. Working in the afternoon. And the big thing that impresses me is that he puts his, what I call his money where his mouth is. Because one of the things you notice is that with all of the piety about food groups and things like that, well, there's a box of apples over in that diversity room, and he gives it to kids, and will not tolerate them drinking soda or fast food to come in there. So he's reinforcing that. But the big thing that I've seen is the absolute respect that every kid that I've seen have contact with John, show that. And I think that that's probably going to have more benefit to the community because of the respect that he's shown, because of the hard work that he does, that more than anything else. John?
Thank
There you go, John. No, I can only concur with that because in this past summer I met many people who, your name came up, or they, and there were a lot of young people, and they were like, oh, so no, in a very positive way. So I agree.
Oh, and by the way, people got to know that you're not getting paid for it.
That's exactly right.
Well, that's true.
That's right.
Right.
Right. And a lot of times, your energy sort of runs out because after all, you eat every day, you got to bring some dough in. But John has been very generous with it, with his time,
As
to the
has
town of Barnstable.
most people here.
And
He's the
and
go-to
back
guy
at,
for lots
are
of
you
stuff.
still over the intermediate school with those kids?
I was in school today.
Oh, well, they called me to come over, but I had to come over here today, we'll probably see you. Anyway, thank you, John. Thank you. Anything else to offer?
Well,
Excuse me, we have a question from the audience, from the selectman from Harwich. Dr.
Yeah,
Valentine.
someone mentioned disability, and I'm one of those that are ignorant of what you've been doing, quite frankly.
Oh, good.
And
it's
so I've
good
enjoyed the discussion. But an issue that we have, I'm liaison to the Disability Rights Committee. An issue we have is accessibility, and specifically using resources that, websites, voting machines, and which seem to scare people away. And we're probably typical of other towns. We would love to have the money to have a full-time webmaster to be sure all this goes on. And I wonder if any help you folks could give us on maybe a clearinghouse for available programs, ways to work with that, training programs for voting machines, any thing like that would be a great help to us. And it actually intrigues me in a sense because not only do we need that for a disability community, hearing and so on, any accessibility would help us all.
Well, there's 43,000
So
people
it's like
we
a win-win
estimated
to
that
that.
have a recognized, under federal standards, disability in this community. So
And I don't know if we
it's
could
not
put
a
like
small
county
problem.
resources or clearinghouses or any aid would be a great, because we have limited resources to address those issues, and the issues are real.
Can I interject?
Beth should be the one to speak.
So, the Department of Human Services, our website does act as a clearinghouse. And so I would love to talk to you more to see exactly what resources the town disability groups need.
Okay.
Other than what you just identified, I could go with that to see what we already have.
Could I
and
invite
what
you
we
to one of our
could-
meetings?
I would love to come. Yeah, that would be great. We put on and I know the commission is interested in this issue because of the intern that is working with them is putting on something in March, next March,
yeah,
a forum.
and so the Human Rights Commission our function is more about creating forums and space for communities to dialogue about the issues.
And I think the town disability commissions are really a really important piece of that because when we did, last fall, we did a conference called It's More Than Just Ramps. It was on the ADA. And we had representation from a handful of the town disability groups. And they were just astounded about what
Yeah.
the resources that were there that they would like to
And I
get
think
their
some
hands
members
on.
of our group would be knowledgeable of some of that. I'm looking for also a way to muscle that up and get the attention of other people because we need, to make it happen.
To make people,
Sure.
to forward that accessibility
Yeah.
issue. Yeah, because you're right. I mean, I've been doing a little research on it myself because of this forum that we have coming up, which is scheduled for March 23rd, by the way, and we'll make sure that information goes out far and wide.
That's another ADA training
It's
in
not-
in
I'm
March?
not
ADA.
sure what the exact topic is, other than ADA.
It's not ADA training. It's not that expensive.
And that's American Disabilities Act training.
American Disabilities
for those
Act, which is
who
the
are-
20th
right.
anniversary of its being signed into law. And this is one observance of it. It's an hour and a half event, still in planning stage. So, but it's only going to be an hour and a half, and it's only going to addressed a few of the topics of the many
Yeah,
that
there are a lot.
the Department of Human Services really is the umbrella organization in the county to deal with this.
Right.
Yeah, and we're, as the Human Rights Commission, one small part of that response.
When you get closer to the time of making the final arrangements, we should talk about whether or not we can, get community TV engaged so that we can get it to an audience beyond the ones that show up at that particular time. That's certainly within the kinds of things that, that the PEG system of public access, education, government channels are supposed to do. And in the meantime, between the next month or so, whoever you want to designate as a spokesperson, I tape on Mondays, for County Chatter. We'd be happy to have you, come on that to promote something.
Thanks, Bill. Jackie Fields is deeply involved in this planning as well,
Great.
so one of us, I'm sure, would be
And also-
interested.
I think you've been on my program, Jackie. My memory serves back a couple of years ago.
Haven't been invited yet, Bill, but thank you. And if it comes up,
You talk so often, I think.
I can maybe accommodate.
Well, I was just going to say that we've been fortunate to recruit someone who has a show on the Bourne Public Access station as our Bourne Town rep.
Oh, good, I know who it is. I know
Alan-
exactly who's the English fellow.
The English fellow who
Yes.
said, "Oh my goodness, I'm an immigrant too."
Yeah.
So Alan, and so we will definitely work on the community access piece. And I was just going to say, to your point, how much accessibility and what's required when we talk about access has changed, particularly because of the internet.
Right, my understanding from a bit afar is there's a lot of new innovative software coming out all the time.
Yeah.
And so what we have now is behind.
Right.
And it's much more difficult, and then people are, there's a training component because people get scared of it, so we need to wrap it and bring it together.
When we redesigned our website, we worked, because of my background, I was really insistent. I was like, we need to make all of the websites that we're designing as accessible as they can be for people with disabilities. And so our website, actually, we tested it with several people who use software so that it was accessible, and have tried to, the county IT department is actually putting together guidelines and recommendations for what protocols need to be followed so that people, when you develop a website, they're as accessible as possible.
That'd be great.
Yeah, so a lot of that stuff's underway.
Well, if it's okay, I'd like to just sort of building on what Paul shared and what John shared, talk a little bit about some specific things we've done. And so just quickly, yes, we did just have our Human Rights Academy. We had lots of external people there. That was wonderful. And we will, in spring, have our, so they get an introduction to human rights on that day, and then they go out back into their communities, do some work, and in the spring we gather and they sort of share the good news of what they've done. Really powerful day. And we continue that, and our plan is to expand that down to the middle schools. And so then an exciting sort of outcome of that was that the DA's office became aware of the Human Rights Academy, came to the Human Rights Academy, their community outreach, Kathy Quattromoni and a guy named Bill Murphy, who's their, Bill Burke, so sorry. Yeah, I know Bill Murphy, so anyway, so Bill Burke, who is a former state trooper who's now working on implementing anti-bullying measures in the schools, helping the DA's office to participate. They asked us to kind of facilitate their entree into the schools, and then we talked about the possibility of partnering to bring it down to the middle schools. So for us, we're excited because that, as John was talking about, solidifying and creating partnerships, that's a new one and that's an important one. Started to make that connection after the death of Andre Martins. We were in the DA's office and he talked about wanting to kind of get sort of on the street level to, through people like John who have their ear to the ground, they know the kids and so on. This was the sort of second connection that we made to try to really implement how could we be of help to them. We've also been working very hard on immigrant issues, have made some new partnerships there, and I'm just going to invite Tom.
Chief Michael Almonte of Yarmouth
He's
is
amazing.
in the process of retiring now, which is
Yeah.
a loss.
You ought to recruit him.
Well, you may have noticed in the
We're
newspaper,
trying.
article announcing his retirement, he was quoted as saying he wanted to devote his time to the Human Rights Commission.
Yeah, I saw
And
that.
we were so happy to read that. We sort of knew that, but it
That's
was nice
amazing.
to see it
That's
as
great.
his closing quote. And he is already helping in that he has, at a meeting of the police chiefs of the Cape, and I was there, and our vice chair was there, and Jackie, they're going to do a brochure, the police chiefs, with the Human Rights Commission, that is given out in Spanish and Portuguese and English to all communities that have people new to the area. There'd be immigrants, but there'd also be people who aren't immigrants. The Puerto Ricans are not immigrants, but they're new to Cape Cod ethos.
Right.
And also the exchange, the workers, the seasonal workers that come in face certain issues with the police sometimes.
Absolutely.
So these brochures would be available, what to do when you're stopped by the police. In certain cultures, they do something quite different than we do. And it's sometimes shocking to the police officer involved, of course. So the goal in this is to have all of the police departments collaborate, and Mike Alamonte's putting that together, and work with the Human Rights Commission.
That's great.
And have these
Good
brochures.
news.
Tom, I should mention something to you that, we've been talking about this over the Workforce Board because of the importance of the immigrants during the summertime to fill the seasonal jobs.
Yeah.
And the importance of perhaps rethinking where the language training should be, that perhaps language training, and we should pursue this with Senator-elect Wolf, language training should be at the supervisory level, because if you have one person who's managing several people for whom English might either be a second language or non-existent, that might be a better way of facilitating their successful integration, into the commercial community. Let's say as one part, but I think as a practical matter, the economic engine that is defined as the tourist industry in Cape Cod depends on the amount of people that are available to do that work. And historically, they've come through the temporary visa program, and anything we can do to support our commercial community so that they can continue to move this economic engine should be one of the benefits that come out of recognizing that we have some reason to support our interest by recognizing their rights.
And the crossover to the Human Rights Commission is, as you well know in our ordinance, it has there about fostering understanding diversity of cultures. So while these folks aren't immigrants, under our immigrants work group, the last couple of summers we've had parties to thank them for their working here.
Good.
And we had these at Rock Harbor. You have to come next summer, July, Bill and Sheila. We had 200 of the students showed up, and about 100 folks from the Orleans and East Ham communities. And it was a wonderful dancing to the steel band.
Make sure we...
And a really, in terms of diversity, as you well know, it's when you do those kind of things that you cross borders that you wouldn't necessarily cross when you're just at the cashier's desk.
Well,
Right.
we've covered a lot of information here, and I think we've come to a point where we have to, we have a technical break
Yes.
to change tape, so
Okay.
take a breath. And,
Take a break, and I'll be
Same thing, and I didn't want to have to...
at your leisure, sir.
They're going back.
okay, we're back.
Go back.
And,
Well, so just quickly, because, we don't want to take too much time, but it was just International Human Rights Day. That was the day we saw you at the Select People's event. And what we decided to do this year was, we usually have a celebration, and we sort of get the choir, and we decided, let's try to hold this at a time when we can do better outreach, not at the holidays where people are just scrambling. So what we did instead, and we thought this would also speak to the goal that Paul put out there, and that John was talking about in his own work, is getting the word out more. So we put our first ever ad in the paper, and I don't know if you saw it, but we were just thrilled. It was a quarter-page ad that
yes, it was.
just sort of said, here we are, the Human Rights Commission, we invite you to celebrate this day, but also we exist for you. Did you know we're here? Here's what we do. If you have a complaint around discrimination or any other human rights related issue. And we also introduced the fact that we will be having a forum on February 2nd, which happens to be Groundhog Day. So Tom and I had a little fun. We thought, okay, what's a time when there's no other thing on God's earth going on to distract people, like Groundhog Day, the dead of winter, and nobody wants. So we're going to do this event. And this is to the point where we decided part of our mandate is to hold community forum for issues that are of relevance to the community, the tough ones that are, it's not exactly a discrimination complaint, it's a problem. So a couple that come to mind that are human rights related that happened this year that we're going to address. One, the issue of the teachers in Dennis Yarmouth who held the end war signs. Now that created a big, provocative, controversial discussion, and we thought, what better sort of way to meet our mandate than to create a public space in which people can kind of hash out that issue of, it brought up so many things, freedom of speech, the issue of being a nation at war, and what does that mean? What does it mean when the military are in our schools, and so on. So we have a forum planned for Groundhog Day, which we will celebrate with great joy. But we will also have a really broad spectrum of speakers on that evening speaking to that issue. So we'll have someone from the ACLU, someone from Veterans for Peace, a young veteran who served in Iraq, who was in the Battle of Fallujah, who has some interesting things to say about his experience, someone from the recruiting office from the Army National Guard, and maybe one other person. And so we'll have this spectrum of perspectives and points of view, and then an open space. And we're trying to do that more and more to create a kind of valve for people to let out the steam from these really intense issues. Another one is, I'm sure you probably heard about the issue in Woods Hole, the Woods Hole Community Center, the firehouse there. They were hosting a group called Cinema Politica. So that also was a really contentious issue. And whenever we talk about the Middle East, we don't seem to have very good skills for our conversation. And so we thought, again, we'll kind of, as the Human Rights Commission, just try to open a space. We're not trying to present a particular point of view, but rather open a space for people to talk about it. And in that case, it's going to be sort of what do we talk about when we talk about the Middle East, and how do we do it? How could we have civil dialogue? How could we not erupt every single time?
I think we could begin by recognizing that they have a different point of view, and that if we try to impose our individual point of view on theirs, we might be making a serious error. And when we're talking about, I was a regular Army officer, and I would be very concerned about people recognizing the differentiation between supporting our soldiers and supporting the political will that puts our soldiers in harm's way. That is a discussion that has yet to happen at what I'd call a rational level.
I agree with you completely, and that's again where we kind of see ourselves trying to open space. And so we're trying to do that more and more and use our resources to do it and do it well. And so that ad cost us some money, and we struggled over spending that money out of our Friends account, which is really hard won. But we decided that would be the best use of the money, get it out there, and then really try to pack that room with people who care about that issue. And the same with this ABA thing, if we can get people, like yourself or other people, towns, that this matters to them, if we can find a way to do a better job of publicizing and creating that space, we will feel we've accomplished something. Couple other that maybe, Tony, you could speak to the Tree of Life.
Our attempt to talk about these different cultures, the Palestinians, Israelis, and the other Bedouin of the Middle East. There was already, the Council of Churches and others have been sponsoring for a few years this thing called the Tree of Life program, and they had it held at Church of Holy Spirit in Orleans in November. A couple hundred people showed up. Very successful dialogue amongst some rabbis, imams, Bedouin, so that is an annual event that happens on the weekend. And I'm happy wearing another hat to be on the planning committee for that. But that would be certainly any effort of the Human Rights Commission would take note of and collaborate with efforts already on the ground to open up speech and tolerance and understanding of this.
I wonder how many people would recognize that Holy Trinity Church, the Episcopal Church in Copley Square, by Richardson, was actually based upon his study of Syrian architecture.
Right.
So in many ways, in our culture in Boston, we have an example of taking a design concept from that culture and imposing it here. Of course, looking at it from the opposite point of view, so, well, that's New England, Boston. But actually, there's not much that is original in the colony.
Well, Bill, as you and I understand that, there might not be a wider circle. And let me also say that almost all Celtic art comes from Syria. All the Irish got it from Syria, but that's another story.
Another time.
It might be the other way around, but or else we just perfected it. But how is there an idea of how many Middle Eastern people live on Cape Cod?
Who had to have that number? Would you have?
But we do. There is.
Well, the census data is
It's
just
coming out, right, so
We're
we'll
in
just
2010, so
have current-
everything we have is 2000.
Well, actually, they're not identified as being a distinct minority unless they present themselves. One of the things I think you learned in this business is you should ask people how they look at themselves, or who they consider that they are, rather than making an assumption about what they are.
Right.
And I would imagine most people look at themselves as either want to be, going to be American, or they're identifying themselves with America, but then they find out that other people are looking at them differently, and that's where the rub.
That's what I should ask.
Sure, my barber in Orleans came from Palestine 5 years ago. So, but on the census, he probably wouldn't be identified as
Right.
such.
Yeah. So that's another thing we worked on. One other, we've done a partnership. We've been partnering with the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom, which is a really active group here. And
Yes,
very
huge.
huge and great ties to the UN and so on. And we did co-sponsor with them a screening of a film called Pray the Devil Back to Hell in October. And that's a film about Liberian women who essentially put a stop to that civil war. And it's a really inspiring story. And so again, we're trying as best
Isn't
we
that
can.
part of a Greek play?
Well, yeah, it was based on, they used the same
They
sort
did.
of
I bet they did.
strategy as Clytemnestra, I think was the one who
Yeah,
said.
right,
You won't be entering this citadel. Yeah, so that happened. And then, of course, our primary job is to mediate complaints, to take complaints and
Right.
mediate them, and we continue to do that in the most. So, two things before we get to that. I just did want to say, if you feel as commissioners, county commissioners, and you get a lot more input around the county than we do, that there are topics that you think the public could benefit from a kind of dialogue or forum or event, please let us know, because we would love to have those ideas to think about sponsoring. So.
I would say that the ones you've put forth in this conversation are all ones that you should devote all your time and energy. Let's see what comes out of that.
What comes out of it, and we'll see where we go. Yeah, okay, great. So, yeah, there are most of our complaints, I just wanted to say, seem to be continue to be employment discrimination, housing discrimination. Sometimes we have complaints in the schools, and then we've got people who are really plugged in and can work on that. But I think the biggest area has been employment and housing. And we continue to try to work to mediate so that they don't go to litigation. So that's ongoing. And we do have some ideas about getting out to just let more people know that we're there to take those kind of complaints. So we've been thinking about having Tom, who's our only paid staff person, be in a public place in the future, just with HRC brochures and so on, just letting people know. It's not like we want to go fishing and try to make complaints come out of the woodwork, but
Right.
You certainly do.
we do not. But at the
No.
same time, we want to make sure people know that this is a place they can come.
Right.
So we're trying to kind of strike that balance.
And that there is a place for them.
Yeah.
If I may just make a comment and observation, I remember the day that, the Human Rights Commission's existence was passed in the wonderful town of Wellfleet. The Assembly went down there to do that, and Ray Gottwald was really very instrumental in helping push that through. And is Ray still?
He's currently working for the Mrs. Bump now.
Oh, yes, okay, so he's
he's-
gainfully employed,
Yes.
that's good. So, anyway, well, that's also a very good resource, but, and I think that a lot of people, although it passed, a lot of people felt that, here's another, and this is, what is this going to do, and, is this supposed to make us all feel good? And you've come a long way. And I'm sure, and I think that the addition of the people here in front of us, but I know that in the beginning it was Jackie and Ernie Hadley and Mary from Ireland. She went back. And so it was a struggle there in the beginning, and it was really like the academy, but you've branched out into so many different areas, and it's really coming. I'm sure it's exciting for you, Jackie, to see it coming along.
Love it.
And the Human Rights Academy, I did stop in this last month, and how professional. I have to admit, like you said, they looked like a different group of students to me. It's very organized, very professional. Their presentation, the one that I was seeing, was really pretty amazing. So it was great work.
Okay, we're sort of at the end of your allotted time, as they
Yes,
say.
yes.
Did you have any particular takeaway that you wanted folks to hear, other than that you wanted them to be aware of your existence, and that you were a place where questions could be answered?
Yeah. Yes, a place where questions could be answered and also suggestions could be made, especially as to
Okay, and
what
so
we
what
could
is your
do.
contact information, because this will go on?
Yeah, this is a good
Oh,
opportunity to get that out there.
Okay, yeah, do we have, well, I mean, through the county, so if you go to
If you go to
the
Beth Albert's
Health and Human Services website, you will find the Human Rights Commission.
www.barnstable.county.org.
Org.
And then you click on the departments, and you click on Human Services,
Services.
and you'll see Community Partners, and we're the first community partner, and we're privileged to be the first community partner.
But
Excellent.
also you can search for us on Facebook, and we do have a Facebook page, and that'll be a little more youthful, kid-oriented.
Great,
So,
that's a good thing. Now I'll get that out
Can I
there.
say as a takeaway, as the commission and the workers for the commission, we're thankful of Elizabeth's work as chair as she finishes.
She is really, yes, you've done a fabulous job, and you'll still be
I will be
involved, but
I did
not as, a little bit less. Great.
And thank you for your time.
Well, thank you
Yes, thank
for
you.
your time, which is precious and voluntary, so good to see you. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Merry
absolutely.
Christmas.
Great to
Happy
see you.
holidays,
Thank you very
yes.
much for having
Thank
us.
you.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Yep.
Thank you, I'm sorry, I wanted to invite you to
Okay,
speak when we
we're good, we're good, we're good, we're
I
good.
have the
Thank you.
county administrator's report.
Great memory. Thanks,
good
good
to see you.
memory, good seeing you too.
See, our, Mark had to go to Nantucket for the Retirement Association. He's doing a presentation over there to cover changes in the funding schedule to the Nantucket Selectmen today. The Economic Development Council is working on finalizing the contract documents for the EDC grants awarded at last week's meeting. Remember, we voted on that.
Yes, we
And these
did.
should be going out to vendors for their signature shortly. And I see that the one of them in here is the survey that the Cape Cod Commission is doing. Health and Environment Department, George Hoyfelter has offered to provide Silent Spring with sample analysis at the county lab. He's offered the lab service to do total organic carbon and total nitrogen analysis. The Olds King Highway District Historic Commission has approved the room to lab conversion project with some minor changes to the exterior materials. That's the general there. Medical Reserve Corps has submitted an Explorer Post application to attempt to have Boy Scout work with Medical Reserve Corps. That's great. We have an active Eagle Scout program here in the Cape, and that's probably that's a key merit badge for the Explorers. Okay. General Administration budget requests for FY 2012 are due from the departments this Friday. He's going to be compiling the packages and getting them to us, especially the first group to review it on Monday, January 3rd. That's our reorganization day, before the holidays. And he wanted to personally wish Bob Lawton, the soon-to-be former town administrator in the town of Yarmouth, a long, healthy, and happy retirement. His last day is this Friday, and he has certainly earned it. Bob has obviously done a fantastic job for the town, and we should note that he coordinated the Cape Manager's monthly meetings for 2 decades. So he personally, and I think we also, wanted to wish him well.
Wish him very
I want
well.
to point out that Bob has already signed up to continue with the RTA, which I was delighted to hear because we're going into budget season, and he was always the kingpin of that part. And I gather from that Bob is intending to take an active role in his retirement to continue to serve.
Right, and I believe that he's still going to be attending, if not organizing, being an integral part of the town administrator meetings. So, so he's leaving, but not leaving.
He's not gone.
No, he is not gone.
That's
He's not gone.
very important for all of us.
And if I may just bring up again, I still would like to, maybe next week discuss and vote on looking at the complex. We're looking at the gymnasium now. Now we're talking about maybe some sort of little historical museum. We have a space up there. We have
So
parking
you wish
needs.
to have that on the agenda?
I would like to have that on the agenda, and I would also like to be able to maybe make a motion to have, we have a planning board to come up with a plan, a suggested plan, and how we can best maximize the space we have, make it more comfortable, do any upgrade that we need to do, and,
Okay, well,
start entering into our new era.
I'll make sure that
Note of that.
is note of that, and we'll put that into our thinking for our next agenda. And specifically, you want to discuss planning committee let's see,
Yeah,
planning
he was like a blue,
committee.
I mean, Scott Nickerson had also voiced,
This is
interest
on
in
the
that.
22nd?
Yes.
You know, I think he wants to come and see it and talk to us on the 22nd.
Oh, good, so it'll be a perfect time to.
So
to
planning
bring it
committee
up again.
discussion on, let's say, on progress of building use.
Right. Today is the last day of George Bryant serving in the Assembly, and George has been with the Assembly since it was re-established
1990.
in 1990, or 1989. 1990, the Assembly came on. So he has had a long and distinguished career, and he is one delegate that really does look at himself as a county representative, and how can he best serve all of the needs, and how these towns all fit into a county umbrella. So
Well,
he's been a great,
In the time
sometimes
that-
he gets
in the-
people, but it's because he knows the history.
Sometimes he's been very generous with sharing his information on things
Yeah.
that he knows.
Sometimes much to
Well,
some
the-
people's discomfort.
The fact is that he is a wealth of knowledge, and that I never fail to learn something whenever he begins to share that information with us. I can recall when I served on the Assembly that he used to do that on a regular basis, and over time, as I continued my service with the county, that has never changed.
Right.
So
And
this will be his
Charlotte is also.
And I think that people should know that in our proclamation, we're intending to make him an honorary dean of the Assembly, which will give him a license to continue to show up and
Yes, and speak
speak.
truth.
Although he
True,
may be relegated to speak at the time for public comment, he nevertheless has stature as far as we're concerned, and a right to do that
Right.
based upon all of the service that he's given.
And Charlotte is also leaving after many years of
Charlotte's
serving,
leaving.
who has also been a great county delegate.
Charlotte's going to continue to serve on the Cape Light Compact.
Yeah, good.
And that's to
And
our
I'm sure we won't
benefit.
see the last of her either.
No, but
I hope
she
not.
she's been replaced by Spiro Mitrakakis in Yarmouth.
Well,
I'm looking forward to seeing what especially the stylistic differences.
well, as I say, she does understand that when you are elected as a delegate, you are elected as a county official, not the representative of your town, even though your town has elected you.
Well, I think
And that is a
that's-
distinction that most delegates do
Well,
not.
Speaking for myself, I always
appreciate.
felt as though I were when I was in the Assembly, that I was given to have the responsibility for regional focus, but I wanted to make sure that nothing bad happened to my town.
Right, exactly.
And I believe that those delegates follow that particular formula. Wonderful delegates. So with that,
I will make a motion to adjourn.
excuse me, no, we'll actually be sending it because we're going into the Assembly.
Oh, I'm sorry, so I adjourn until we'll go into recess until we reconvene at the Assembly at 4 o'clock.
I'll second that. All in
And
favor?
we're all- aye.